Happy Friday. How are you doing today? I'm very excited that it's Friday and it's the weekend, and we are going into a holiday week next week. Yay! It's going to be Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. And I am slowly but surely finalizing our menu. I'm going to do a Three Sisters kind of deal for our main. It's going to be beans, squash, corn, and I'm going to put in some traditional kind of like turkey herbs in there. I'm going to do a long grain white rice with peppered with black lentils and then some sort of fresh herb. But yeah, and then some sort of dessert. Hi, baby. This is Ruby. She just got spayed. She's doing very well. She's only 1 year old and she's just the cutest thing in the whole world. Hi, baby. Oh my gosh, so cute. She wants to go out for a walk. But today I thought I would talk about Dean Ornish. I mentioned him yesterday. Ow, baby. Or maybe I didn't, but he was a doctor that I wanted to mention. Yes, I see you. I see you. She's very needy. And he has a book called Undo It. I believe this is his latest book with his beautiful wife, Ann Ornish. And they have an interesting story because Anne was actually quite sick recently. And so it just goes to show that anybody can get sick. You could be married to an epic doctor like Dr. Dean Ornish, who's had a lot of his own studies and he's just been around for decades. And he's helped even people like, former President Bill Clinton after he had like so many heart attacks. Dean Ornish saw him on the news and Bill Clinton was told, like, this is just like genetic and you're going to have to live with it for the rest of your life, even though he's had stents and he's had, I'm sure, the best cardiologists in the United States or anywhere in the world. And even he got sick, but Dean Ornish saw Bill Clinton being told that you can't do anything about it. So he reached out to him. He sent him an email and he said, actually, it's not genetic. You can do something about it. And this is how you can do it. So they started working together. Bill Clinton went on a predominantly plant-based diet. And he, if you remember, dropped some weight. He looked a lot healthier. He felt so much better. And I always thought like he looked younger. And I just assumed maybe it's a little bit of the weight loss, even though sometimes like it's the opposite. People lose weight and then they tend to look a little bit older. But Bill Clinton looked good. And it was because of Dean Ornish. Dean Ornish and Ann Ornish, they hang out with like Oprah. They were invited to her home in Maui. So he is a big deal. And what I like about him is I discovered him in my early days of getting into this whole, beautiful mess that is human nutrition today. And when I started learning about plant-based nutrition, I came across Dean Ornish and I watched one of his TED Talks. And up until that point, all these doctors are just talking about your physical health. And Dean Ornish was the first one that I had heard telling a story about how he was so depressed. He was suicidal in his college years, and he changed his diet. He learned about all these things, changed his diet, and that got him out of his depression. It sounds like he has delved into a lot of different other kind of modalities. So he is a very open-minded dude. He's a meditator. He talks a lot about love and the importance of love and human connection, which is like abso-freaking-lutely Dean Ornish. But he has a medical and lifestyle program. And it is, I believe, today the only one that is whole food, plant-based, and covered by American insurance companies. Like, blows my mind away. He said it took, I think, over 10 years to make that happen, but I love it. He is persistent and driven and just an incredible doctor. So his program typically has 4 pillars. So even on his cover, you'll see move more, eat well, starts with move more, eat well, love more, and then stress less. So we have to manage our stress. And there's so much to talk about when it comes to stress management and how it could lead to like brain shrinkage and how it could lead to depression and anxiety. And many of us today are like so disconnected from others. especially after the pandemic. Like if we've continued to just work from home, you're not getting that social, like IRL interaction with people. This is why, like, in many ways, I know YouTube can be super addictive and not good for us, but in so many ways, it's actually also really good. Social media today is my way to connect with the outside world, even if it's just like a digital check-in or like, quick comment here and there. Like I feel that connection and that is meaningful. Um, anyway, so Dean Ornish, when he told me that his depression lifted, through his TED Talk because of the power of his diet, that knocked my socks off. And he has a section. This book is just like, it's thick and there's so much information in here. And what I love about this is that he's a real practitioner. He's taken thousands of people through his program and they've learned like what works for people in a real setting. He even talks about like group size when you're doing group work. Like he has a magic number. I think it's like 25. If you get past 25, you just kind of like lose that intimacy. But I love all those little details, because he's just really like tweaked and optimized his program. But when I think about certain foods, so if I want my brain to be healthy, I like to think about what kind of plant in nature kind of mimics that human organ or that thing, right? Like if you look at walnuts, I like to have raw walnuts for a variety of reasons. Not only is it good for our 5-day resets, but it's great to mix in with things and make like a vegan meat. It just adds so much depth and umami and flavor and fat and yum. So when you look at the walnut, it not only comes in a hard shell like our skull, but it also looks like a human brain. And that blows me away. When you look up the benefits of walnuts, a lot of benefits like omega-3 fatty acids, excellent for all over our bodies, but also especially for our brain health. So there is on page 83 of his book, it's a little section on nuts. And what he says is that numerous studies have shown that consuming these in small quantities is beneficial. So a lot of people who are like healthy, they get into trouble because they will like take this bag and sit in front of the tube and just snack. Very calorie dense, a lot of calories in this for a little amount. So we have to be careful. So some people might think, I'm so healthy, all I eat are whole foods and this and this and that. But if you do have some body weight to drop, you're going to want to minimize the walnuts a little bit and any nuts because they're so calorie dense, very high fat content when it comes to a whole plant food. So Dean Ornish, page 83, these are beneficial. So even some of the largest studies, including the Nurses Health Study, which is a study that a lot of these folks in the plant-based space reference really often, there were over 280,000 people, nurses, involved in this study, and they tracked their health and their habits. But they showed that consuming nuts and seeds correlates with a consistent 30 to 50% lower risk of cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, sudden cardiac death, and strokes. And one reason is the omega-3 fatty acids, but as we have learned from T. Colin Campbell, it is the whole plant. It's not just the omega-3 fatty acids, but it's also the omega-3 fatty acids that are working in conjunction with everything else that is in the walnut, that is also having a chemical reaction with everything in our bodies. If our body needs a certain compound or a phytonutrient from that walnut, in a section of my brain, like the body knows exactly what quantity of that walnut it's going to take and send up to my brain, perhaps in a matter of seconds. Remember, he said something like, all these chemical reactions are happening more or less simultaneously. I've also read him say that it takes about 2 to 3 seconds for all these like nutrients to travel all over our systems. Like insane. So one reason is like omega-3 fatty acids in some nuts, such as walnuts, that help to reduce sudden cardiac death. Let's eat some walnuts. Also, consuming nuts in small quantities reduces insulin secretion, oxidative stress, which is going to fester and grow into all kinds of issues, and chronic inflammation. Mechanisms we've been discussing throughout this book, blah, blah, blah. And I love this part. After all, nuts and seeds, they contain concentrated energy that when planted turn into a tree or a plant. And that just is such a beautiful statement. Although we don't have any tools in Western science to measure this life force, other healing systems such as Ayurveda and yoga therapy and Chinese medicine use prana, chi, and other things to describe this vital energy that is literally and figuratively packed into nuts. And when he talks about things like the life force and this teeny little tiny walnut that I ate, it so reminds me of Doug Evans and the Sprout King. So these are my sprouts. This is pretty much day 2. So I soaked them the other night. I could have drained them that evening because I started this in the morning, but I forgot. So I just let them soak for 24 hours. These are very forgiving. So if you forget, no worries. So yesterday was the official day 1 of just kind of like sitting in the tray in this state. And then today I'm going to call officially day 2. So day 1, I don't call the soaking stage. Let's just say this is 2. So you can see all the little tails that are growing. These sprouts have been these seeds have been activated and they have started to sprout. So that life force is alive and it is sprouted. So it is starting to grow. And then by tomorrow, I'm going to suspect, by tonight, it's going to look different, but definitely by tomorrow morning, it's probably going to look a lot different. So yeah, yum. Tomorrow I'm going to harvest some. I'm going to eat some. You could eat it even at this stage, but ideally we're going to wait for 3 days. So on day 3, the sulforaphane content is the highest in broccoli sprouts, but we could also wait until day 4 or day 5. I've waited till day 6. Again, really forgiving. But he says, i.e. Dean Ornish, 1 low-fat serving, around 3 grams of fat, equals any of these. So he gives examples of how much we can consume maybe every day, every other day. I don't eat nuts every single day, but I want to get into the habit of doing that more often, especially for a growing child. So 5 almonds, 9 pistachios, yummy snack, 1 whole walnut. So I've got my serving for the day. 3 pecan halves, 2 cashews, 6 peanuts, 5 teaspoons of ground flaxseed, 2 teaspoons of chia seeds or shelled sunflower seeds, or 5 teaspoons of pumpkin seeds. So yeah, lots of goodness here. There's just so much to cover. But ultimately, what does he say? He says to eat a bunch of whole plants. He says he does also talk about the environment, how important it is, and how much water resources and land usage and all that stuff that it takes to create meat or animal products, including their byproducts, like dairy products. But I like that he says, does that mean you can never eat meat? He says no. So basically, if we are healthy, how do we know we're healthy? Well, we feel good. We might get some objective measures done, like get our blood panel, get our blood drawn and check all the different various things like our cholesterol and our insulin sensitivity, or our A1C, our blood glucose levels, and something called ApoB, which is something that I guess measures the chances of us more accurately if we want to see what our chances are of having a stroke or a cardiac arrest. Something to measure is ApoB, which is more accurate than our blood pressure. Yeah, and our, HDL and LDL cholesterol levels, although those tell a good story too. But the people are saying there's more accurate ways to measure it, so why not? They said that ApoB measurement is non-standard, but last year I got it measured and I asked for it. The doctor did know what I was talking about. Apparently some doctors will be surprised and not know what you're talking about. my doctor knew, and she said that was a good question. She said I may have to pay extra. I didn't end up doing that. She said I may have to go to a special clinic. I did not have to do that either. So it seemed very standard. It was covered with everything else, and I didn't have to draw any more blood or go anywhere else. So yeah, ApoB. But what I like about him is if you are relatively healthy, like, sure, he allows, the allowances for a little bit of meat or a little bit of dairy and fish and blah, blah, blah. But he does state that if we are in a serious situation, just don't go down that path. So I like that. I like that. So this is another excellent book. There's a bunch of recipes in the back. Yeah, lots of stuff, lots of information. So he takes you through how to eat well, how to move more, lots of gentle exercises with like real images in the book. Love more. He talks a lot about like erotic sex and how that's also healthy. It's just like I always like giggle because that's my maturity level, I guess. But I just think that's like really funny, and innately that feels like excellent. So lean into our instinct, and yeah. And then he says, if we move more, we eat well, we love more, and have connection, like even with pets, taking care of a pet has shown to like decrease inflammation and stress and anxiety and depression, even like fish. But if we do that, if we move more, we eat well, we love more, then he says that the stress will come down. So that's essentially his thesis. Eat whole foods. They're very good for you, good for our brain health, great for depression. Simple lifestyle changes can make a huge difference. Even if we start making one change, like almost every morning of the week for the next week, I'm going to eat a nut. So it's going to be 1 walnut, 2 cashews, or 5 pistachios. And we'll start from there. So with that, I hope you have an excellent weekend. And yeah, let's go nuts. Go nuts. Have some nuts.